Hello, everyone. We are back live, and okay. So this is the most complicated session of the day. So let's see if we manage this without major technical difficulties. So it looks like we're missing Harri's camera. Okay, there we go. Can everyone hear me? Let's do a very quick mic check. Hello.
Hello, 1, 2.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
Right. Well,
Come in.
great. All good. We're live. Thank you very much for joining. Some hours are weird for some of you, and I appreciate the effort in joining. So we have 45 minutes of discussion, and the topic is publishing and funding trends in 2020, and it's certainly been a very interesting year. But first, I would kindly ask you, each of you, to briefly introduce yourself and what you currently do. And let's start with the top row here. So Harri. We're not hearing you. Still not hearing you. We had you earlier, though.
Okay.
Okay, now.
Do you have me now? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So my name is Harri. I am the founding partner of Play Ventures. We are a global early stage pure games VC, purely investing in pre-seed and seed startups across the gaming space, both game studios and game services companies. Our first fund is a $40 million fund, which we closed in late 2018. And since then, in the last 2 years, we've made 23 investments globally across the world into early stage gaming startups.
Thank you. Bill? Oh, okay, you're probably muted. Can you please double check?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Wang from Skystone Games. We are based in the Bay Area. We are a player first and developer focused gaming company. Our goal is to help developers succeed by providing publishing, development, and financial support to them. We have got VC funding this past July and signed with 4 developers so far.
Okay, thank you. So let's continue with bottom row, Guillaume.
Hello, everyone. My name is Guillaume de Fondaumiere, and I'm the co-CEO and head of publishing at Quantic Dream. Quantic Dream is a video game developer known for games such as Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and lately Detroit Become Human. We've worked for many years with third-party publishers, lately during 12 years with Sony Interactive Entertainment on PlayStation, and 2 years ago we decided to be fully independent, both in terms of producing our games and also in terms of publishing. So we raised money through NetEase, and currently we are self-funding the development of our games, but also we've launched our own publishing structure, which is composed of roughly 16, 17 people right now. We are self-publishing our own games, of course. We started with our back catalog on PC quite successfully, both on the Epic Game Store and on Steam and other popular stores. We're expanding right now our reach, but also we're starting to offer our publishing capabilities to third-party developers, and we've already signed several deals, which we will be announcing in the future.
Thank you. Next up, Maciej, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm bad with Polish names.
Okay, my name is Maciej Miąsik. I am a member of the board of the Movie Games, which is a medium-sized Polish publisher and quite young. So far we've published several titles for the PC, and that's all for the introduction. I'm the substitute for the Mateusz Wcześniak, our CEO, who was supposed to be here. So I hope I will manage, because I'm more focused on the development than this business and publishing side.
Thank you. And Nikita, welcome back.
My name is Vladimirov. I represent the company. We have one is another one is a super publisher.
Nikita, your sound is breaking up. I don't know if it's a connection issue or can you please repeat?
Do you make it up?
No, it's very
I'm a public
Hacked.
the fund. We
okay
to make it phone.
Okay, that's probably going to be a little bit challenging. Nikita, if you don't mind trying to reconnect and worst case we find some solution, we figure something out. So thanks for the introduction, everyone. And we'll start with a very open-ended question for each of you, and it would be interesting to learn each of your perspectives. So 2020 has certainly been a very eventful year in the context of pandemic that keeps people in their homes, so everyone working from home, playing more games apparently, but also less events, less conferences, less opportunities for traditional networking. The question is, how has the year 2020 impacted the overall publishing or funding process? Wants to start? I'll nominate Harri.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I think the COVID pandemic obviously has been a terrible tragedy. And we've, as an industry, gaming has been very lucky to not only sort of survive it as an industry, but actually, the COVID pandemic and the subsequent lockdowns have actually accelerated what we've thought had been a trend for a long time, which was that gaming was becoming more and more the dominant form of entertainment this century. So I think from that standpoint, like us as an industry, have been sort of very lucky and have been able to grow even in the face of the pandemic, which has decimated some other industries. I think in terms of like us being an early stage VC, the biggest impact, obviously, as you mentioned already, is the inability to travel. So we used to travel, me and my partner, more than 100 days at least a year, going to each and every conference, meeting partners, meeting developers, meeting our portfolio companies around the globe. And obviously now, I mean, the last time I was I'm based in Helsinki, by the way. So the last time I was in an airplane was, I think, early March this year. So it's now been 8 months since I was on an airplane. And what that has changed is that the inability to meet, the new companies that we try to source and we try to find to invest in, when we can't meet them in person, obviously that changes our investment process quite a lot. So as we are doing right now, we are, we're having this panel session online, and oftentimes, like we already saw, there are technical difficulties to it. It's very hard to sort of create a true relationship over video calls. And so that just leads to the fact that, for example, with us, since we tend to invest very early into the companies we look at, which is often pre-product, almost always pre-revenue. So we invest first and foremost in the teams and the people. And I think for us, it just makes the investment decision process much slower, which means that we have to take, multiple calls with the founders and try to get to know them as well as possible through online channels before we are sort of able to form a conviction to make an investment. And one of the best ideas I've heard in the last 6 months is actually, and we've tried it out as well. I think originally we discussed it with some of our US colleagues, that actually playing games together with some of the teams you're looking for is a great way to get to know them. And maybe, you know, playing games is going to be a permanent part of the deal sourcing and due diligence process, you know, going forward, even after the pandemic.
Interesting. And are you, when you say playing games, you mean playing their games together or playing Among Us together, or how?
Well, it depends. It obviously depends on what type of games they're working on, but yes, I mean both, right? So playing their games if possible. Sometimes it's so early, but even like, you know, like Among Us is a good example. You know, playing League of Legends, playing any sort of online game where you can collaborate, even compete a little. I think that can be an interesting way to get to know somebody.
Thank you. Guillaume, what about
Okay.
your case?
Sure. Well, before the pandemic, similar like Harri, I used to travel 2 to 3 times a month to meet with developers. I always had in-depth discussions with studio management before I made investment or publishing offers. So I was able to invest in several developers based on my impression of the team. Even they had nothing to show me. They had no demo to show me, but I like them. So I invest in the studio and got great results. As of today, we have signed with 4 developers and are in advanced conversations with 2 more developers without any in-person meetings. We were able to make offers and invest in our projects based on the evaluation results of our demos. So without face-to-face meetings, due diligence could be very difficult. Therefore, we require pouch demos from studios before we make any deals.
Okay, thank you. Guillaume, can you share from your experience?
Yeah, well, I agree with what's been said before. If developers are watching us, I must be honest. It is much tougher to get a deal signed under these circumstances. And indeed, you know, I think each of us understand the importance of having face-to-face discussions, of spending time together, having a dinner together, or a lunch, and going out, and, you know, having a more loosen up discussion about not only what the game is that they want to do, but what's their core vision, what are their values, etc., etc. We can't travel to meet with the teams. We can't you know, spend hours talking about their project the way we could do it in the world before the pandemic started. So it's tough. It's difficult, and it's whether we recognize it or not. I think we need to be humble about this. We, as publishers or investors, are certainly going to turn towards those who can concisely express their vision, who can vibrate some trust through the wire to a certain degree, and that's, unfortunately, I think some developers won't be able to make the cut because of that. Some developers and teams who in other circumstances would have had the chance to crack a deal will probably not succeed because of COVID. So it's much tougher. You must be much more prepared as a developer when you go and pitch publishers or investors. And I think that's the only advice I would give to developers is prepare yourselves and you know, polish your demos, polish your speeches, polish your documents, and make sure that you know, you're as transparent as possible, because you need to build trust. You need to create a great game, but you need to build trust.
Understood. Maciej, the Polish games industry is very dynamic. So how do you guys feel this over there in regards to the publishing process?
This year was surprisingly good for us, especially in terms of funding, getting money from the investors, because we have this boom for gaming industry in Poland this year. So probably in the anticipation of Cyberpunk 2077 release, which hopefully will be this year still. So we have a lot of investors interested in basically giving us money as a publisher and spending the money on games, which is not easy because at this moment we mostly focus on the Polish studios, although the number of candidates is getting smaller and smaller every day because it's so easy to get some kind of funding. So there is a lot of smaller and larger publishers in Poland simply trying to contract as many teams as possible. So we have money, we don't have much teams, and this situation limits our expansions elsewhere because we can do this only online, we cannot travel. So it's from this point of view is getting tougher on us. We have money, we don't have enough teams to make all those games we would like to make or they would like to make.
Okay. And Nikita, it seems like we have you back. Can you share your perspective on this?
Hopefully my sound works better this time.
It's okay now.
Okay, so I'm the last one, so I completely agree with everything that's been said before, and just want to point out what Guillaume said, that from the perspective of the publisher, usually on a meeting, you are trying to help a developer to asking questions, and so the developer with his personal charisma can compensate the blank spots in the documentation. Over the internet, it's nearly impossible. So the requirements for the documentation increase dramatically, which makes it much more difficult for the developer. Another thing what Harri mentioned is about travel. And of course, we're all missing the travel. On the other hand, traveling for 1 week means you're for 3 weeks out of the office. You have to prepare for your trip. It takes time. When you're out of the trip, you have to do the follow-ups. So every trip is very painful in terms of overall business process, and it adds a huge toll. You're getting tired very quickly. Right now, we can have an event every other week and still be in office and still be more active and more, sorry, my English is escaping me. So have more results. So I think it's yeah, I miss the travel, but we can adopt. And by staying in the office more and with online events, we can be better at what we do and more effective.
So that's a great point. But let me ask you this: don't you feel that with online events? So one thing that I feel, and this may be just a personal impression, but with online events, it sort of feels that you have the work that is implied by the online events, so all the meetings and everything, and your usual day-to-day, which doesn't go away because you're actually still in your home office or wherever you're working. So what I feel is that when you're physically at an event, you can actually focus on the meetings and what you're doing over there, and you're sort of in vacation, quote unquote, from your day-to-day. So I think it's challenging, personally at least. I think it's challenging in different ways. Do you feel the same way?
Sure, but it's also important what kind of load you have at the office. If you have only one set of duties, like a scout or a business developer, and you need to be out there, you need to be traveling 200 days a year, that's one thing. But if you have additional managerial responsibilities, then it's getting extremely difficult. So
makes sense.
Yeah,
So
if I can add to Nikita's
yeah,
point, I think that's a great point that everything we're losing in terms of like the human element and sort of those deeper relationships that Guillaume was referring to, which I think are incredibly important as you're establishing these long-term partnerships over a number of years, if not even decades. The you know the thing that Nikita says that we're actually incredibly efficient now. So that is true. The ability, I mean, you can take so many more meetings. I mean, literally, I've been at the home office for the last 6 months. So my commute to the office is literally walking down a set of stairs, and then I'm working. So you can be incredibly efficient, and if you're able to sort of wrap your head around this new way of working, I think you can get a lot achieved. But to all of the other panelists' points, I think it poses a different set of challenges for the developers. They really need to be prepared, have their homework done, have all the documentation in order, and also practice. It's a lot about practicing and going through the motions of pitching and discussing and presenting your product online, which is something that not a lot of people have done before. So it's a learning process, I think, for everybody.
okay. And let me flip the table on the previous question.
Sorry, I
Okay,
just
sorry.
wanted to add, everyone who's self-driven sees a great increase in its productivity. And it's working much more and more efficiently because of the pandemic. And that probably also applies to entire teams. Those who do not need to be led or advised are going to be very efficient in driving their development forward and advancing. Teams who need more support are going to struggle much more because it's more difficult to bring them support in their development process. I see that in my team. All the team members who are self-driven and they strive. All those who need more support, who usually in the office, they can turn to someone and easily get access to whatever help or information or guidance they need. They struggle much more.
Okay, thank you. So that makes total sense, but I want to look at it in a different way. So, it kind of sounds like the biggest challenge is reaching out to developers and finding developers, and the way that publishers and funds have interact with developers is changing, and that creates new challenges. But what are the good things? What is the changing process that is positive and you expect will remain even when things go back to normal, whatever that will mean? And I would like to start with Nikita this time.
As I mentioned before, we are sort of dancing around the same subject. Online events are here to stay, and we are still learning how to utilize this new tool at our disposal. But I think it's great, as Harri mentioned, it's incredibly efficient, and I've been able to do 25 to 30 meetings per day during the GDC. That's incredible. This is absolutely beyond the imagination a year ago. So it's here to stay. Being more proactive is here to stay. But we desperately need travel to get back. It will be less travel. It will be more focused because it's impossible to sign a deal which is longer than marriages, I know. So we are signing a deal for at least 2 years, living together and communicating every day, and it's nearly impossible to do over the internet. And the developers will learn how to pitch better. So it's a few good things to take out from the COVID year.
Okay, any other insights? So about positive impact besides what was said?
Yeah, we can attend, plenty of events around the world, basically sometimes for free, not going there, not wasting our time on travel. And we have the opportunity to meet really great teams we otherwise couldn't even meet. So it's a good thing. The problem that finalizing anything based on that is very, very difficult. It takes a lot of time. It's the communication is a huge problem because yeah, we have to rely on those communication tools that work sometimes pretty well, but other times not that well. So the email exchange takes ages. The communication exchange takes ages. So this is really huge impact. We would prefer to go there and meet face to face and simply finalize and sign the deal. Now we have to exchange a lot of information and probably a lot of important stuff is getting lost during that. So yeah, we all hope that we return to normal in some way.
Okay.
Well, one thing people didn't talk about is the cost saving. It's a big plus. I used to travel to Asia, Europe every month from San Francisco Bay Area. If you add up all the air tickets and hotel bills, that could be very expensive. But now since we work from home, so a big cost saving for us right now. Well, I still miss the face-to-face meetings. I could get more information and get a better sense of team through in-person meetings. Today, we're working on some deals that cost millions of dollars. It's still a bit scary to think about doing a deal that costs $1 million without meeting the people you work with for the next few years.
Makes sense. All right,
Yeah,
so
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry. What should remain, I hope, is the fact that we can meet and greet online this way and exchange initial information at a high level, quickly and efficiently. I mean, for a partnership to be signed, it's a bit like a funnel. You know, you see a lot of people, and then you just you go through this funnel, and at the end you're at this stage where you want to sign, and both parties want to sign, and it's fantastic. But for that one deal that you're going to sign, you probably need to see 100 developers. And so all these online conferences and online video conferences enable us to have a first quick assessment of whether or not, both for the developer and or for the investor or publisher, there is here an opportunity, if there's alignment, etc. And that I find extremely interesting. Sometimes you fly to the other side of the world and you come back and you've just met people that actually, they're not necessarily interested in working with you, or you're not interested in working with them, and you could have spared the trouble. On the other hand, I'm really hopeful we can go back to normal quickly, because once you've arrived at a point where you really want to work together, then you should probably travel. And I would very much like to focus in the future my travels to those moments. First, you're a few weeks away from signing, and you want to just meet the people and just do your very last assumptions and very last verifications or meetings with this team before inking the deal. And inking the deal face to face is much better. But then let's not forget, then there's the whole process of production. And here, I was already seeing, I can't unfortunately say what game, what team, etc. But we've worked for the entire year 2020 with a team, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult to work together on a project when you can't travel to each other's headquarters and visually exchange. And I mean, it's the development of a video game is a complex process. Which requires close cooperation by the teams themselves, but also between the developer and the publisher. And so these are the moments that really we're missing right now. And hopefully we can go back to a normal world where we can focus our energy in following up with, as partners, face-to-face, together in a room, as often as necessary, because that's really essential.
Great, thank you. Makes sense. So let's move to a different topic. I think we've touched on a lot of good points here. So it's very clear that the relationship between the publisher and developer has changed, and there are some good things and there are some things that are not great, but we have to adapt. I'm curious though, have things changed regarding scope? And by that I mean, are publishers and funds looking to sign more games, fewer games? Have funding amounts changed in some way this year? Do you see any trends in this regard, Harri?
So when COVID first hit in the spring, I think there was a widespread fear that it would sort of dry up all available funding, and there was a brief period, let's say a week or two, when sort of I think both publishers and then venture investors and corporate investors were sort of scrambling and trying to figure out like how do the lockdowns affect our portfolio and our runways, and do our companies have enough runway? So there was a period of sort of making sure that everything is functioning and okay. But I think we quickly saw, post those initial couple of weeks, that the demand for games stayed, or went to record high. And I think throughout the pandemic, like the general, I think like Mate said, like the general investor feeling around and the appetite for gaming has just been increasing and increasing. So I think it's actually the other way around. I think there's much more capital available now, also in the VC space. I mean, we've seen multiple sort of gaming specific VC funds being launched, at least publicly launched during the pandemic. Gaming companies in the public markets are at an all-time high in terms of their valuation. So I do think that the funding amounts are actually increasing. We saw a little bit of an effect since we tend to invest so early into these studios, so we're much earlier than the publishers who usually invest in the gaming project themselves. We invest at the very earliest outsets of the teams, and sometimes even before those companies are formed officially, we already sort of have those discussions about backing those founders. So we saw a brief period where perhaps people were unwilling to, when there was sort of people were unsure on how the pandemic would develop, especially when it came to their job security and things like that. So they were unwilling to sort of jump to a completely new venture, but instead, elected to stay put for a while. So there was a little bit of drop on sort of the early deal flow, but I think that's picked back up again, like over the summer. And like I said, just the amazing run that gaming is now on as a form of entertainment is definitely sort of boosting all aspects of the funding funnel.
Okay, thank you, Bill. What about
Sure.
your case? And it's actually interesting in your case because your company is relatively new. So how do you see this, in terms of evolution of funding and projects to sign?
Well, as you know, we are new. So we started Skystone late March, ahead of the pandemic. So during the lockdown period, we pitched to the investors. Some investors turned us down because they could not feel comfortable without meeting the founders. Sorry. And some investors decided to hold off new investment because of the economic uncertainties. So it's a bit tough to get funding, but we made it. We see gaming is one of the few silver linings during the pandemic. When people had to stay home, had nowhere to go, gaming is one of the best way to socialize with our friends. So as Harri said, we see a lot of VC funds invest in game studios, and valuation of game company has gone up. But also that create a problem because there's so many games in the marketplace. Last time I read a report that there are about 60,000 new games launched every month across all the platforms. So it's really hard to get attention. That's the reason David Breivik, my partner, and I want to start Skystone. We help developers do marketing, PR, community management, help promote our games to players, to platforms. So definitely we see that's a good opportunity for game companies during the pandemic.
Thank you. Other insights on this?
We on our end haven't changed our approach during the year. We have a very clear path forward. We have established a strategy for the next 5-6 years, and so we're following on that plan. If anything, as I think Harri mentioned before, on our end, on self-publishing our games, which is what we started with this year, we're probably going to. I'm probably going to beat my forecast by 30 or 40%, my latest forecast being March. So if anything, it's going to give us more means to invest in third-party games. Some of this would certainly be used for our own games, but also for third-party games. So yeah, it's pretty positive. But again, I sorry to be a little bit not pessimistic, but to ponder our enthusiasm. I think that if the pandemic ends and between spring and summer 2021, then it's going to be soon forgotten, I would say. But if it lasts longer, it may have an impact on the development of our games. On all our games. I mean, we are already seeing the impact on the games that are releasing at the end of the year. Several games are delayed. Not that that is very unique in the industry, but this year, I know for a fact that it has to do with format QAs being late because it's difficult because platform holders are also working from home, so the whole process of getting your game greenlit is more complex and longer. It's more difficult to master a game in a pandemic situation, and I don't even know how the teams are doing. Thinking about CG Projekt, for instance, mastering Cyberpunk 2077 under those circumstances must be hell. It's important that we find a cure or we find a vaccine, because otherwise there might be. For now, it's been good, or the impact has been positive, but it may have in the long term a negative effect also on our industry if it continues.
Got it. So I think I'd like to move to another topic because we're running a little bit short on time, and this is so moving to a totally different subject. This is a topic that came up in questions I think a couple of times today. I want to ask you about multi-platform versus a single platform. So so I want to ask about the publisher approach here, or fund. So do you guys see it better to specialize on a specific platform, or is multi-platform the way to go today? And by multi-platform, I even mean mobile plus PC plus console. What are your takes on multi-platform today? And let's start with Nikita.
So first of all, the multi-platform became very easy those days. I mean, it used to be that you have to do another 30-40% of all your development just to make sure that your game is running smoothly on consoles. Right now, with Unity, with Unreal, you can make a build for the console in a matter of minutes. So technology is here. But when we talk about the game development, there is always one target platform where you start. And usually your game is the developer's game is targeting per one platform. And then you see how you can extend your audience, how you can increase sales, how it can be adjusted for other platforms. So as a publisher, we have to identify together with the developer what would be the best target platform, number first core platform, and then all the other platforms are extension by default. So did I answer your question or?
A little bit. I'm actually interested to know if, as a publisher, you have a preferred platform and why, if so.
At this moment, I would say that super.com prefer PC as a platform because it's more open. It gives more opportunities for us as a publisher to create a sales strategy, to promote it. So it's just more open for us rather than work with the platform owners such as Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. So that's why we prefer PC.
Understood. Mathieu?
Oh, the openness of the platform is quite important, actually, because our most successful titles are not that, those closed platforms friendly. So we have some issues in getting those games on other platforms. And on PC, well, we do what we want and we deliver the games that players want, actually. So that's obviously the platform of choice at the moment. But we would like to become a multi-platform publisher, obviously, because the money is everywhere. So we don't exclude any platform. If we finally get the product we can get everywhere, we would try to do this, simply as that. Of course, it requires to expand our team and gain a lot of knowledge we don't have at the moment, but we will learn. We are quick learners, I think.
Thank you. Guillaume, how does Quantic Dream approach multi-platform?
Well, obviously, after a long run as a single platform developer, who's very focused on the PlayStation, we decided to go our own way, and this way is multi-platform, simply because with running only on one platform, you are only reaching out to the audience that is on that particular platform. And today, gamers are present on a number of different platforms. Yes, there is overlap. Yes, people do play both PC and an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Switch or even the 3 devices. They also play on mobile. So, and most of the time, they have their own favorite platform. And even if they have multiple platforms, they have a favorite platform. And by being multi-platform, you give yourself the chance to reach all gamers. And that's ultimately what a publisher's job is to make sure that all gamers play the games that you publish on their favorite platform with any features or adaptations made featured that are singular on that particular device or interface or platform. And so this is why we are pretty platform agnostic. We're mostly looking at games that would play well and have a target audience on all platform. Very much looking at next gen now, of course, but also the PC. We're on our end. We discovered PC, 15 years after having launched our last game on PC, and it's a great community. We're working on other consoles than PlayStation right now, and it's also very interesting to work with those console manufacturers. It's of course more work, and we're prepared and organized in a such way that we can address each of these platforms with professionalism and care.
Thank you. Bill, what is Skystone's approach?
At Skystone, we believe in multi-platform strategy. The success of PUBG and Fortnite have shown going multi-platform is the best way to maximize returns and reach out to as many users as possible. So at Skystone, all the games we have signed or will sign in the future will go to PC and console. and some of them will go to mobile and Google Stadia as well. In this way, we think that can leverage our user base and cater to players' need. Today, players want to play games all the time. They don't play games at home. They want to play games on the road. So by going multi-platform, it will allow them to play games on PC or console at home and play on their mobile phones when they're on the road. So I think that's the best way to give players all the best experience.
Great. And Harri, on the funding side, do you have a preference, or how does it work?
So we've been focusing a lot on mobile. At least Fund One portfolio is mainly mobile free to play, and we are big believers, by the way, in free to play business models in terms of like being able to scale to VC type of returns, the returns we're looking for. And mobile has allowed developers to create products at sort of much more controlled budgets than potentially guys like, for example, like Quantic Dream doing fantastic AAA games, which often include more risk on the development side in terms of like financial risk, because the budgets are much larger. Now, there's an interesting trend which I think is potentially a mega trend that will affect potentially also our investment thesis quite a lot. And I think this year we've seen sort of 3 new games coming out with specifically a multi-platform and a cross-platform strategy. One obviously being Fall Guys, that launched first on PS Plus as a free product for PlayStation subscribers, and then also on PC. The other one that you guys, obviously everybody knows, is Among Us, that's available on PC and mobile. And then from China, Genshin Impact from MiHoYo launched about a month ago, and that was pure sort of multi-platform, so console, PC, and mobile. And what I think is really important when you think about like Among Us and Genshin, it's exactly the same game on mobile and the AAA platforms. And one of the biggest concerns that we always have, and the sort of competitive threats in mobile gaming, is the sort of the ever rising cost of user acquisition, because paid user acquisition still provides a lot of the player numbers for mobile products, mobile free to play products. And if you look at Among Us, like they've been #1 in the US now on mobile charts for several weeks, if not months now. They will also hit top 20 grossing in the US on iPhones, which is pretty incredible for that type of game. And all of their user acquisition on mobile is essentially coming from the influencer, the Twitch and YouTube visibility that they got. Then, by the way, that was 2 years after their original launch. But once the streamers picked it up on PC, people started downloading the free version on mobile as well. And to date, I'm guessing here, but I would suspect like 70, even 80, even 90% of their daily actives are actually on mobile platforms. So we think that can be a super interesting way to drive traffic to mobile games, is by utilizing sort of the AAA platforms or PC versions, and allowing like streamers and YouTube content creators to really make that sort of help you on the marketing push, and then the sort of the bigger audience ends up playing it on their phones. And I think you've probably Fortnite has had that as well. I don't think they've been monetizing as well on mobile, but they've had prior to the current situation between Apple and Epic, I think a majority of their daily actives were on mobile platforms.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think something similar to that happened with Hearthstone as well, after it launched on mobile. So
exactly, and that was several years ago, right? So
yeah. So we're getting close to the end of the session, and I would like to close with from each of you with a very brief piece of advice for developers going into 2021. Let's start with Nikita.
So, as I said, the COVID year brought us a lot of new things and new tools, and made us reevaluate how we approach the process. So, my advice would be using online events, be focused, prepare for them. You have to prepare them better than you can prepare for offline meeting, because there is very difficult to recover if you made a mistake. So you have to prepare for the online meeting better than for the offline meeting, and get an agent. That would save you a lot of trouble. So that would be my advices.
Thank you. Bill, advice for developers?
Well, that's a saying, words are cheap. Actions speak louder than words. So if you're a developer, I think the first impression very important. Don't show your demo too early when it's not polished. So as you know, many people have job interview experience. You will not go to interview with really bad resume without grammar mistakes. Similar to job interview, when you talk to publishers, you better have a polished demo to demonstrate your capability. Like at Skystone, since we could not meet with developers in person these days, we want to talk to developers that can demonstrate their execution capability through demos. So in summary, having a great idea isn't that hard, but execution is key for success.
Thank you. Harri?
If you are a games developer, or you're somebody working in the game industry, and you're thinking about now could be a right time to set up your own game company or your own game studio, I think my advice is to definitely go for it. The industry has never been more popular. There's never been more demand globally for games. There's so many different audiences and categories of games out there, and players out there who are looking for, whether it's free to play first person shooters on PC, or free to play solitaire games on mobile devices. There's so many different audiences and categories to go for. And for the first time, I think in at least my career, there's so many early stage investors globally also looking to back studios even at an idea stage, if you have the right team. So I think now is late 2020 and early 2021 will be a fantastic time to start a new game studio.
Great. Matthew?
My advice would be do at least a bit of market research. Spend, $3 on Steam Spy and analyze what's going on in the market. Don't be attached to your, ideas you had for years, and just because it's much easier to get the money, it would be really wasteful to waste this money on the idea that wouldn't sell in the end. So it's easy. You don't have to be an expert in this, but at least do a bit of homework before you start working on the pitch and spending some money on the prototype.
Thank you. And Guillaume?
Difficult to add anything to those very wise advices that I concur are indeed very important. Prepare yourself before going out. Words are great, but execution is key. Now has probably never been a better time to do it and to launch your game company, and there is enough money on the table for you to fund your project. Marketing isn't your enemy. In the contrary, it might save you a lot of time because it might influence the way you design your game to go in the right direction. Last advice on my end would be believe in yourself and believe in your dreams. Know who you are. Whoever you are, you have strengths and weaknesses. And if you're looking for a partner, be it an investor or a publisher, make sure that this publisher or investor can leverage your strengths, maximize them, and as much as possible help you overcome some of the weaknesses that you may have. That's all for me.
That was a great advice and a great summary. Gentlemen, this concludes our panel. Thanks a lot for joining in, and I look forward to seeing you next time, whenever that is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good
It's been a pleasure.
evening
Thank
or
you.
morning, and
Thank you, everybody.
I will
Thank you.
see you soon.